For the past 7 nights, though night has started to feel like a meaningless word, I have been reliving the same terrifying loop each time, beginning at exactly 2:14 a.m. as if the world itself were pinned to that moment. The first time it happened, I thought it was just a case of deja vu brought on by exhaustion. The sudden clap of thunder rattling the window pane, the soft but unmistakable creak coming from the hallway outside my bedroom door, the faint draft blowing from nowhere that lifted the curtain just enough for me to see the empty street outside. But on the second night, when the same sequence repeated with unnerving precision, I felt the first pinprick of dread. By the third night, dread had hardened into fear. Every time I woke, my heart was already pounding, as if my body understood something my mind was fighting desperately to deny. I tried staying awake on the fourth night, sitting upright in bed with every light turned on, gripping my phone like a talisman, refreshing the time repeatedly just to reassure myself the minutes were still moving. But at 2:13 a.m., my eyes grew unbearably heavy as if weighted down by hands I could not see, and the world blinked out for the briefest fraction of a second. When it snapped back, the lights were off, thunder rolled again, and my phone screen read 2:14. It was then I realized the loop didn't care if I was awake or asleep. It wanted that moment to repeat, and it would force the world backward if it had to. On the fifth night, I tried running outside. The instant I heard the hall creak, I bolted out of bed, ignoring the ice-cold sensation that washed over me as soon as my feet hit the floorboards. I didn't even bother putting on shoes. I sprinted through the house, flung open the front door, and hurled myself into the storm. Rain drummed violently against my skin, lightning tore jagged wounds across the sky, and the wind howled with a force that felt almost conscious, as though trying to shove me back toward the house I was fleeing. But still I pushed forward, my lungs burning, the pavement slick beneath my feet. I reached the end of the street, the intersection where the old brick clock tower loomed, its hands frozen in time from some forgotten century, and then I felt it. Not a gust of wind, not exhaustion, but a sudden vertigo, a tilting of the world. My vision rippled, and I blinked instinctively. When my eyes opened, I was back in bed, soaked to the bone, heart racing, staring at the ceiling as thunder cracked overhead. 2:14, I hadn't even felt myself fall asleep or collapse. The loop had simply snapped me back like a rubber band. By the sixth night, panic no longer felt sharp. It felt dull, heavy, like a weight pressing into my ribs whenever I tried to breathe too deeply. I began searching for patterns, any variable that might break the loop. I moved furniture. I wrote messages to myself in permanent marker on my arms. I barricaded the hallway door with chairs, boxes, anything heavy enough to make a difference. But every time 2:14 arrived, the furniture was back where it had been, my arms were bare, and the hallway door remained ajar, just wide enough for a sliver of darkness to pull through. I couldn't escape 2:14 because 2:14 was the only time that existed. The rest of the day felt like theater, a stage being dressed around me to maintain the illusion of normalcy. I would make coffee only to find the pot empty again moments later. I would try to speak to neighbors only to realize they didn't really look at me, didn't really hear me, as if I were a ghost brushing past them. I knew then that the loop wasn't only repeating the night. It was bleeding into everything, rewriting the world to keep me contained within its boundaries. I tried recording myself sleeping, hoping to catch something, anything, that would explain why the loop kept resetting. But the camera always stopped at 2:13, no matter how I set it, no matter how many batteries I fed into it. Every recording became nothing but static. And through that static, sometimes I thought I heard breathing. Tonight, though the word tonight feels meaningless now, I felt a shift before it even happened. Something in the air was different. The thunder sounded too distant at first, as though coming from underwater. The hallway creak was slower, drawn out, not the crisp wooden groan I had come to expect. I sat up, body trembling, not from shock, but from the strange realization that this time I wasn't merely repeating the moment, I was entering a variation of it. My eyes drifted toward the corner of the room, the one shadowed patch that even my bedside lamp could never seem to reach. It had always been dark, but tonight the darkness was shaped dense, layered, as though something were standing in that corner. At first I thought it was a trick of my eyes, the room too dim, my nerves strung too tightly. But then the shadow moved. It didn't lunge, didn't creep. It simply shifted, almost imperceptibly, the way a person adjusts their weight when standing still for too long. My breath froze in my throat. I forced myself to speak, my voice cracking as I demanded, "What do you want?" For a heartbeat, nothing happened, then the shadow deepened, pulling in more of the darkness around it until it felt as though the light was shrinking away. A whisper slithered through the air, close enough to brush my ear though the figure had not moved from its corner. "To take your place," it said, the voice neither male nor female, but something hollow, like wind whistling through the ribs of a long-dead animal. The moment the last syllable faded, the room spun violently. It was not like fainting, it was as if the world itself had been yanked downward. My thoughts scattered, my body collapsed. I felt cold hands too many fingers, too long curl around my shoulders as the floor rushed up to meet me. I don't know how long I was unconscious. There is no real concept of time within a moment that is itself trapped in an endless loop. But when I opened my eyes, sunlight was streaming through the curtains. Birds chirped faintly outside, the storm was gone. For a fleeting second, I thought it was over. I lay still, afraid to move, afraid to test the air, afraid that even shifting my weight would snatch me back into the nightmare. The room looked normal, the furniture was where I remembered placing it the day before. My phone lay on the bedside table, buzzing with morning notifications. Everything felt real, too real. I swallowed hard, forcing myself upright, legs weak as though I had run miles in my sleep. I grabbed the phone with trembling hands and stared at the screen. 7:43 a.m., Wednesday, I exhaled shakily. It was morning, a real morning, or so I hoped. But as I stepped outside, hope shriveled instantly. The sky was too still, too pale, as if painted rather than alive. The air held the faint metallic scent of a storm that had never happened. The street was silent, not simply with the calm of early morning, but with the emptiness of something missing. And then I saw it, the old clock tower at the end of the street. Its brick surface glowed in the morning light, but the hands those rusted, ancient hands pointed stubbornly, impossibly, undeniably at 2:14, my breath hitched. I stumbled backward, nearly tripping over the uneven sidewalk. The tower had never moved in all the years I'd lived here, its mechanical innards long dead. But it had never displayed the loop's time either. This was new, this was deliberate. The shadow's words echoed in my skull, "To take your place." A horrifying possibility began to form, slow and sickening. Perhaps the loop had not released me at all, perhaps it had only shifted. Or perhaps, and this thought threatened to rip apart what remained of my sanity, the shadow had indeed taken my place, and what I was experiencing now was not release, but displacement. Maybe I was outside the loop not because I had escaped it, but because I no longer belonged to the version of reality that could escape. The air felt thicker, heavier, the silence stretched unnaturally long between each distant sound. I could feel the weight of unseen eyes observing me from windows that looked dark even under morning light. Something was wrong with the world, wrong in a way that went deeper than the clock. The loop hadn't broken, it had evolved. And I couldn't shake the chilling sensation that somewhere in my bedroom or in the corner where the shadow had once stood, something else had awakened in my place, something wearing my shape, something living my life. And perhaps the world now turning around me at this false morning hour was merely an echo, a leftover shard of the loop I no longer controlled. As I stare now at the clock tower, frozen at 2:14 despite the morning light washing over everything, I realize the full horror. The loop isn't trapping me anymore, I am the loop. And whatever has taken my place in the real timeline is free to walk forward while I remain suspended here, caught between a morning that isn't morning and a night that never ends. Listening for the next thunderclap, the next hallway creak, the next whisper curling through the air, reminding me that the cycle isn't over. It has only changed shape, and I don't know if this place, the world I am standing in now, is meant to last minutes or years. All I know is that somewhere, the shadow is living in my life, and I am stuck staring at a clock tower frozen at the moment everything ended, 2:14 a.m.